How do you know when sexual invitation is welcomed and when it would feel obtrusive? This is Reid from ReidAboutSex.com.
Cathy from IntimacyDojo.com.
And I think we've all had times, whether we did this or someone else did this, where they were kind of hinting at or asking for sexual connection when it just wasn't, like, even in the cards. And that can feel really weird and awkward. And I like to avoid that if I can help it.
The weird and the awkward?
I don't like to ask people for something that is like, they're like, no, like, I like to be in tune. And I've had people ask me that for something that's so out of left field that it didn't feel like, it felt very uncomfortable to me.
Okay.
So I'm curious, how can you tell when you or other people are aligned about something, and in particular around sexual expression?
Well, I mean, my experience is that you can't tell. So, and even if you think you can tell, you may be wrong. There have been plenty of times when people are flirting with me and I thought they were making sexual advances. And my protocols are to ask for clarity, because I just assume I'm making the wrong call, and I'm misinterpreting the situation.
What if there are people that are totally not flirting with you, and you think that if you're not tuned into that, and then you talk about negotiating sex with them in a way that implies that you just assume that they're aligned for that? Oh.
Well, again, so my advice on all this stuff is going to be counter what probably most everything about culture is telling you to do. Because my principles or foundational beliefs are that culture's shifted enough that the old advice, that he's not that into you, or the rules, those books aren't. That's old advice. In the same way that you wouldn't use, you wouldn't try to fix your computer the same way you would fix a steam engine, if that makes sense. So the societal dynamics have shifted, but no one's given you the new manual. So it gets weird. That's the preface for what I'm about to say. When in doubt, and even when not in doubt, ask. And ask, be explicit and be like, hey, I would like to move this in a sexual place. Is that okay with you? Yes or no? Like, would you like that as well? Yes or no? And so I'm always trying to practice. For me, I'm not always perfect about this, but I'm always trying to practice, like, asking people yes or no at the end of it.
Okay, so I have a question about this. And I'm trying to, like, it's something that I noticed and I'd like to get more articulate about. So I may not be super articulate. But say if you're just talking to someone and there's been no obvious, like, touch or flirtation, would you just come out and say, hey, would you like to move this in a sexual direction? Like, you're talking.
Well, you can, but so
to me, it's not always appropriate. Like, if you're talking to the grocery clerk, you probably wouldn't just.
Well, you need a certain kind of relatedness. Right? So
how do you tell when you reach that relatedness?
You ask. This is why it sounds so weird. But for me, as a cisgendered, extroverted, slutty white guy, for me to ever assume by the laws and rules of feminism is dicey. And if I scare the other person away by speaking about what's going on, if it becomes so awkward as to ruin the moment, that is the best thing I could have done, compassionately and kindly, because it wasn't supposed to happen.
So you're amazingly good at building relatedness with people. And I think subconsciously you may have certain signals you're looking for before you would ask that kind of a question. And so I'm trying to dig deeper a little bit. Like, how do we know when to bring, like, I was just in a I know you're laughing, but I think there is, because I've seen you're actually very suave about this.
Okay. I'll tell you, I can answer the question. It's going to be similar to the same answer I'm going to keep
There's
giving.
something more. Okay. I was just at an event.
Yeah.
Where completely out of the blue, someone talked about negotiating sex with me and another person.
Yeah, with you and another person.
Right. And we were both like, it was just incredibly awkward because there had been no flirtation. There had been no, like, I think because this person, partly because we're both sex educators, this person just kind of assumed we were available for sex. And it was just like, there is no relatedness, and it just felt very uncomfortable. And I think that when you do it, there are some signs or things you look for that indicate a relatedness. And I'm curious how you do that.
So this is a question about relatedness. Yeah. Then you're Legoing it to the, not Legolas, the Hobbit guy.
He's really hot.
But you're connecting it to, so the relatedness is what allows me to ask people if they want to have sex, and it's not weird.
Right. I think, like, you wouldn't walk up to the grocery clerk and say, "You did such a great job bagging the groceries. Would you like to go
bag you?"
Yeah. Would you like to move this to a sexual arena? There's not a relatedness there.
Yes, and there are ways to create relatedness quickly, and I assume that we're going to shoot a video right after this about that. However, if you were a musician,
yes,
and somebody came up to you and said, "Hey, would you like to jam?" Would it be awkward to you?
Perhaps if like you talk about country western versus a classical people, or it might be that I don't have a connection. I don't think you're actually good at music, or I think you're.
But would you be offended?
I think if there's a presumption that I would jam with them, the way it's approached would be certain. Because I've had lots of people ask me about sex, and I've been a no, but not kind of uncomfortable. But this was like, we should negotiate this.
And as a sex educator, if somebody came up to me, "Hey, would you like to talk about sex education?" Would that be awkward, or would you be offended?
No.
Why?
I might not be a yes, but I love talking about it.
Okay. So.
And I'm willing to talk to people about that wherever they're at.
Okay. So for you, around people approaching you for sex, you need something else.
We were both uncomfortable, me and my friend.
That just because two people were uncomfortable doesn't mean.
Okay.
Like, you have agreement, great. Now I have another person who's uncomfortable, thus the situation is accurate. I mean, it's...
No, it just was... There was no connection and also no interest, and neither of us had given any interest. We were just having a conversation about like very generic things, and out of the blue it was just like, and with the assumption that we were both obviously available and we just had to talk about it before we did.
Where was the assumption that you were obviously available?
The way it was expressed.
Okay. So... if somebody asked you for, this is great, we're having an argument. If somebody asked you to talk about sex, there's an assumption that you would want to talk about sex?
Usually people say, "Would you be interested in talking about this topic for my store?"
So this person didn't say, "Would you be interested in having sex, all of us?"
No, he was talking about we have to negotiate doing this particular act, and we were like, we never indicated.
But that is true. You would have to negotiate if you were going to have it.
The way it was said and the energy about it was definitely like that was something we could do, and we just had to do that.
Okay. So
and I am concerned that I might, like, I try to be very present and tuned into people because I never want to make other people uncomfortable, especially that way.
Okay.
And I'm trying to dig in because you seem to have a very good instinct for when to bring that up and ask. And not that you always get yeses, but that you're not making people uncomfortable about it.
Well, I probably make all kinds of people uncomfortable. I mean, they may be uncomfortable just watching this video.
All right, leave a comment below. Are you uncomfortable?
So we're going to come back with a second video because this one's getting close to 10 minutes, and we like to keep them shorter. So we're going to come back, talk about ways to know when you've built enough relatedness, which is going to be, for those of you who don't come back for the next video, ask, "Hey, do you feel like we're connected enough right now for me to actually ask you about sexual things?"
And I'm wondering about the timing of that.
Exactly. There is no timing other than don't...
might be wrong.
Other than don't lead with that question immediately.
Yes.
Or tattletale on yourself and say, "Hey, just so you know, I want to have a conversation with you so that I don't occur to you as a stranger, so that then I can ask you if it's okay for me to flirt or hit on you."
Yeah.
And again, relatedness happens to be a lot about revealing your agenda, if and when you have one. And then understanding that revealing the truth for most people gets them in a weird place because no one does it.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree with that part. So
Rinse
we'll
and
be right
repeat.
back.
Next
Leave comments below.
10-minute video.
Do you like it when we fight?
Did you even watch it to the end?
Thanks for tuning in, Sex Geek. If you would like to continue with the brain sex, do me a favor and click subscribe right here. If you'd like to watch me on social media, that's where you're going to go. Next video, maybe? And if you really would like your own Sex Geek t-shirt, please click right here, right now. Boop. No, really, like...